Thank you so much for joining us. In honor of Women's History Month and International Women's Day, Acker is thrilled to present our Women in Wine series, available to stream on our Instagram and YouTube channels, so please subscribe to experience all of our incredible content. We have a fantastic roster lined up of some of the wonderful women who are invigorating the wine industry. My name is Lily Mirabel Friedman, and I'm honored to be joined today by Véronique Drouhin, a woman who is always so generous with her time and serves as the head winemaker for Maison Joseph Drouhin. Thank you so much for joining us today, Véronique. Where are you in the world? Where are you joining us from today?
Well, thank you for having me, Lily. I am actually talking from Beaune. I am in my little office, which probably in the 1800s was must have been a bedroom or living room. I don't know. You see the chimney behind me, and so here I am. Yes, in Beaune, at the office.
Looks like a beautiful day from what I can just peek at to see a beautiful day in Beaune. And
How's
2021 shaping up in Burgundy?
It is actually, I think we may be soon be coming to the break time, which is always exciting to see these little vines going back to life. So it's not particularly early, but it's not late either. But we know now with this climate change thing, the vintages tends to start to be early. So we're excited.
Good.
Yes.
So we'll get right into your big story, because you certainly have a historic story to tell in Burgundy. And you come from a very famous family. The Drouhin family has a long legacy in Burgundy, and you're one of 4 children, the rest of whom are brothers. So wine did not necessarily have to be your career. Why did you initially decide to go into the wine industry?
But I have to say, initially, I did not decide to go to the wine industry. When I was very young, I wanted to be a pianist. I love music. I played the piano, not very well, and absolutely not well enough that I could become a pianist. But as a child, I just loved it. I was all the time playing. We had 2 pianos. My mother played the piano, my father the violin, my brother the cello. So music was fun. So I really liked it. But of course, wine was not far. And, but actually, when I was 10 or 11, that's when I put in my head that becoming a winemaker could be a dream. But at the time, it was, as you say, I have 3 brothers, 1 father, and really both were working in the cellar. So for me, it was like, I would love to do this, but I don't think I can do this.
So what made you change your mind?
What changed my mind is one major event in 1972 when I turned 10 years old. My father, the company was growing, and my dad did need a little lab to help control and on the tasting on the wines and checking on the wine. And so he did need the help to do that. So he hired a person, and that person happened to be a woman. She was very young. She became quite famous. Her name is Laurence Jobard. And Laurence kind of came into my world, and she was among the very first, if not the very first, women winemaker in Burgundy. So back in 72, seeing a woman come to this world, of course, my mother was very involved in the business, but more for reception, for cooking. She's a great cook, but she was not technically involved in making the wine, although she has been in Oregon since day one. So this is family. It's a very family business. And that's how really for me was a change in, that is something I could do.
And what was kind of the preparation of going from being a 10-year-old and seeing Laurence Jobard to kind of starting your own career in wine?
Well, I went to school and I had the normal education at the school. But then at the end, when you pass the baccalaureate, so when you're 17, 18, you have to decide what's next. And I spoke to my father and I said, I really would love to pursue enology school and become a winemaker. And he was very encouraging. He didn't say, no, that's for your brother, maybe you should do something else. He said, you want to do that? Do it. And so that was great because I got the encouragement. So I didn't do the first year after baccalaureate. I studied more general science, geology, pedology, chemistry, biochemistry, and so on. And that was on the advice of the guy who became my winemaker teacher. He said, maybe you should do these 2 years of study and then start the winemaking program, because if you don't like it, you will have these 2 years and then you can shift to something else. So I did that, and then I liked it very much. And then I signed for the winemaking class. I have to say, I was the only girl. So this is 1984, and I was the only girl in the class. So it was very new to see women. But I never had any problems. All my friends were great. It was not like, what are you doing here? So I know some people, for some women, maybe it was a bit more difficult for me. And then I did like 2 years and I did internship. I went to Bordeaux, believe it or not. My first internship was in Bordeaux, which I thought it's a region I didn't know very well, and I should know better. And then the second one was in Oregon, and you know the rest for Oregon, the rest is history. But that is my simple path to winemaking.
Very simple. Is there perhaps a pivotal wine that you tasted growing up that really inspired you to want to make wine, or that inspired your own winemaking?
There's one wine that will always be in my memory. I've been lucky to taste great wines. My father was very generous in teaching us about wine by opening wines in the cellar, and he had a great collection of old wines, much better than we have now. So he would share those wines, and we learned a lot through tasting wines from the 30s, the 40s, which back then were like today we drink wine from the 60s or 70s. And he, as a game, we would need to guess the vintage, we would need to guess the origin, the appellation. We were wrong most of the time, but we learned a lot doing that. But one day, for my 10th birthday, almost at the same time as Laurence was having, he opened the Chambertin Claude Besse, which was often that for our birthday he would open one from our vintage. So he opened the Chambertin Claude Besse 1962. And I don't know why I remember this wine so well, but 62 is a vintage with a lot of grace and elegance and delicacy. The nose, the perfume, I still remember the perfume of this wine served in a proper ballon balloon glass. It was just a genius, beauty, and I thought, wow, this is extraordinary. And I do remember this wine.
Have you had the wine since? Have you ever had the wine again?
Yes. Luckily, he had kept, I guess he did like this one very much and thought the one will age well. So he did keep some. So I've been lucky to taste it, not so often, but on a couple of occasions. And I think there's a few magnums left. I don't know if there's in bottles, but which is good news because, as we know, magnums should age.
Not too bad. Not too bad at all. So you mentioned that you didn't really face any challenges in enology school and everyone was very friendly to you, particularly as the only woman, but have there been any great challenges in building your career?
The biggest one has been Oregon. Everything was a challenge in Oregon. I mean, we arrived there and the communication was not the same. Finding equipment was almost impossible. Doing construction was difficult. So yes, the challenges were not so much here where everything was already settled. But yeah, Oregon, everything was a challenge. But when I think back about it, it's no regrets. I would do it again. But I would say that part of my life has been a big challenge. And on top of that, I would say another personal challenge was raising 3 children in Burgundy and while making one in Burgundy and Oregon. So they always were based in Burgundy, but for me, leaving them for 2 to 3 months every year to go and check the wines in Oregon, that has been a bit difficult. Now, if my husband was next to me, he would say, I agree, the most difficulty was for me, not for her. Because I would leave the kids, but it was fun.
A very different kind of way to grow up, and certainly to have wineries, very important wineries in 2 countries and 2 continents is a big responsibility and a big undertaking. So it's such a great kind of parallel stories of how the Drouhin family has had such a legacy in both places.
Oh, we love both places. We are very connected, of course, Burgundy, but also to the US, because my grandfather Maurice, he started to go to the US. I'm not too sure exactly when, but he spoke really good English. He was the liaison officer to General MacArthur, so they became friends. And so there's a lot of connection between us and the US. So the US has a big part in our hearts.
Definitely. Did you have a mentor, particularly one in the wine industry?
Well, Laurence Jobard obviously has been a big mentor for me, beside my father. But I was working with her on a daily basis, like every day we would be tasting, and I really learned a lot. So I didn't really need to look outside. Of course, a lot of the generation of my father, the Marquis d'Angerville, Hubert Monti, Henri Jallet, those people are really nice sharing with this young generation any of their knowledge, which is very important to do. And I try to now do the same with my children, and my daughter who just joined us, and any of her friends. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to do the tasting for Arthur and his friends, and I'll be delighted to do that. So, but for me, I was lucky to have Laurence beside me, and then all these great people that we could go and knock on the door and they'll say, "Come in, let's talk and taste."
Are your children as excited to go into the wine business as you were?
When they were little, they were like me. They didn't think they would join the wine business. It's not. I'm not going to do what my parents are doing. Very classic. I would say Lorraine is the one that showed a lot of ability to taste. When she was very young, she would smell, and I could say she very early that she had a great nose. And then they all started to taste at an early age, like we did. But she really liked it. But then she continued her studies. She went to do business school, and she worked for LVMH in Champagne for food and for Winard, pretty good school. But in the marketing and communication fields, not the wine. But they are very smart because they always make sure that these people talk. And she was fascinated with that world. And so in 2017, she had to decide, now I need to get a job. And she's done a lot of internship. And she said, "Mom, I would love to help you make wine in Oregon. Can I be one of your interns?" So she came and she was one of my interns. So she helped me the 2017 Oregon vintage, which was fun because it was the 25th anniversary of Cuvée Lorraine. So she made the wine named after her. And she really liked it. So coming back to Bonn, she said, "I'm going to take a class for winemaking and viticulture." So she went back to school, and now she officially joins the family. So we have three. So of the three, she's the only one who has decided to join. My two other children are doing something else, and it's great. They should do something else. Will they join? I don't know. If they want to join, we'll open the door and see if there's something they can do that. Because it's not because you are born in a wine family that you will automatically get a job, and it's not because you're born in a family that you need to become part of that. So it's really your own decision. It's very demanding, and so you need to like it.
Of course. Do you have a favorite trait about yourself?
Um, I think I would say I'm an optimistic person. Sometimes we go through tough times, in the wine business or any business or any, but we still are agriculteurs, so we have to work with the mother nature, which is not always that kind with us. But after a storm or a frost or any difficult event, or this year the fires in Oregon, I just think there's going to be a new vintage and you'll be okay. So yeah, I would say I'm an optimistic person.
Different than most people, particularly Americans, I think we don't necessarily consider optimism as an asset or as something that we need to kind of push for in life. But as farmers, everyone that I always speak to is like, we're farmers, you just have to take whatever the vintage throws at you and make something as best you can. So it's a different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm always interested to hear how people approach risk. And I know at Drouhin, you've had many kind of challenges in life, in the vineyards and wine. How do you generally consider yourself a risk taker?
Well, I would say Oregon was the risk because there were absolutely no, it was not obvious that we would be successful. So I would say yes for that. I would say yes. We took the risk to go there to start this, and we made every necessary effort, not knowing if that would be worth or not, if it was successful or not. So I would say yes, taking the risk to go to Oregon and not an easier place like California um, was a little bit. I was not the only one. I have to say, of course, my brother and my father we were the three of us very excited about the project and taking the risk of going to an absolutely not very well known place, not really encouraged by our friends in Burgundy who tried our first wine and said the wines are delicious, but nobody will buy this. Nobody knows Oregon. So I would say, yeah, it was a risk, but at the same time, it was a difference.
And it certainly paid off. They know the wines of Oregon now everywhere, all over the world, and they know the Domaine Drouhin in Oregon wines, if not at kind of at the forefront of that category. So
Yes, Oregon is really on the map, and some of my really dear friends now have come to Oregon. Jean-Nicolas Méo, we spoke about that. Um, Maison Bouchard, Maison Louis Jadot, Dominique Lafont. He's a very early young believer. He's been helping Lingua Franca now. And so it's great because it's not just for fun, but just believe, like we did 30 years ago, but just believe Oregon is a great place for Pinot.
Did you ever think of anywhere else, or have you thought about kind of investing in a different place that isn't Burgundy or Oregon since?
Well, as a dream, I would love to try and make one in New Zealand because I think it's a great place. And now I have Etienne de Monti is going to the Santa Barbara County, I think, or Montreal County in that area. So it's always exciting to try and make one in a region that you think has potential. The problem is the time. It's very time. If you really do it yourself, you have to be there. You have to walk the vines. You have to make the wine. So it's very hard to have diverse unless it's built a team who is in charge. But we kind of been raised making the wine itself. So maybe the children, maybe they will start something else.
There you go. You can just put it off on your daughter, and she'll do it. She'll have, you'll get to have Oregon and Burgundy, and she'll have New Zealand or somewhere else.
She might. She's also a traveler. She's a trooper, so she might.
Especially in a year like this, how do you stay motivated?
I would say the fact that we got so many emails, phone calls, pictures, notes from friends who say, thank you very much for making this wine. You made my day, you made my dinner. So you realize that all the efforts, you're making people happy. And that is, at the end of the day, even if you go through some trouble, it is not easy with the COVID. I think it's very hard for everyone. But luckily, we can still work in the vineyard and work in the winery. But we can't travel, we don't see people as much as we normally do. But getting so many messages coming to us and say, thank you very much. We just had a lovely dinner, a great wine. I get pictures all the time with food pairing. So that keeps you motivated because I'm doing all this for something.
Very good. I mean, to me, that's what's so nice about the wine community is everyone wants to share, everyone wants to talk about what they're opening and what they're drinking. And especially now, I think that's what people have gotten excited about, really, and what kind of a blessing social media has become in times like these. People are sharing what they're opening and talking about wine in a different way that I don't think was as part of the community even 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's very true. And if you think of it, when you can be working really hard and achieve a lot in a week. Like this week, I'm happy I did a lot. You have to think about things. And then the weekend, you have a great dinner with friends, or like this dinner I had on Wednesday evening. Well, in 2 weeks, I will only remember that dinner. I won't remember what I worked on. I know I did achieve a lot, but I won't remember. I will remember that dinner. So you built memories. And certainly wine is a big part of the memories you build with friends.
Is that perhaps what you love most about the wine business?
It's probably one of the things that I love the most. I love making the wine. I love that day the first fruit arrived. Then after 2 months, I'm like tired of seeing grapes. But I would say every year, it's such an exciting moment when your first fruit arrives and then the first smell of the first tomato starts. It's also a very exciting time. So I like those things.
I like how hands-on you are in the vineyard. I think that's really exciting to hear about so much. But is there a defining moment that you think that changed your career?
A defining moment. You mean that change? I'm not trying to listen to the question. Sorry.
Like, was there one thing that happened in your career, whether it was going to Oregon and kind of the doors that opened for you particularly as part of the Drouhin family, or when you became the head winemaker, some sort of specific time that you think was really influential on your career?
No, I think it's a couple times where I have been exposed to things that reinforced the my idea to go to that. And it was not just related to tasting great wines. It was also with people we met. Because, for example, my father was a close friend to Robert Drouhin. He was the charming person. And it was always so nice. I was not very old, and I've known him for a long time. But he was always giving compliments and listening to him and my dad talking. I thought, gee, this is extraordinary. And I remember one day my father came in the morning and said, "Oh, I got a phone call last night at 2 a.m. And I said, "Who would call you that night?" It was somebody from US, from California, and it happened to be Alfred Hitchcock. And he was asking about, I think he was complaining he couldn't find Morachet. And so he said, "Robert, I didn't think about the Czech life." But then you're like, "Oh my God, it's fun that you get to connect with such extraordinary people." 2 years ago, and I mean, even recently, Francis Ford Coppola, who is my neighbor now at Dijon, I just got someone come and said, "Véronique, Mr. Coppola would like to see you." And I thought he was someone from Coppola. And he said, "You know, the man makes the films." I said, "Really? The Francis Ford Coppola?" "Yes." And here's this lovely man with his wife, Eleanor, and we chit chat for 2 hours. And I happen that he's my neighbor. I give him a ball and say, "Welcome to the neighborhood." And this is fabulous.
Yeah.
So it's not really one thing that made me, that one specific moment, but all these little things that happen.
The little things that kind of make the community for you I think are very unique and very special.
Yeah.
Is there a specific piece of advice that you'd give to the next generation of female leaders in the wine industry?
Yeah, I would say never doubt that you deserve the opportunity. Yeah, just if you want to do it, just do it.
Okay.
No?
I will say that I spoke with Anne Colgan earlier this week, and when I asked her about other female winemakers, she was very kind to say Véronique Drouhin. So I'll ask you the same question, but with no pressure, and say, is there another woman who you'd like to shout out who's making very exciting wines in the wine world that people should know about? People definitely know about Anne Colgan, so perhaps someone else.
That's a hard question because quite a lot now who makes extraordinary wine. But I think of one in particular because she has been a long time friend of the family. Actually, her parents were friends with my parents, and she's well known actually. But she's from Australia. She's in Margaret River. Her name is Vanya Callan, and she made fabulous wine. And Vanya is just a human being. Her personality is fantastic. She's an opera singer. All these states, her parents put into biodynamic farming back then, so a long time ago. So she's at the forefront of sustainability. Her wine is just delightful, and she's so yeah. Vanya would be my
Perfect. I like that answer because I think the wines of Australia, particularly in conversations with Burgundian winemakers, don't get that much attention unless you're now talking to Jean-Marie Fourier, who's now in Australia. But Australia is often forgotten in the conversation about fine wine, and I think it's something to remember, a place to remember. So
absolutely, yes.
Looking past the jumble that is 2020 and 2021, whenever this very long pandemic ends, do you have a vision of what's in store for the future of the wine world?
I think the wines will continue to be better and better. We know the quality of wine worldwide is excellent, and I think because of the science, because of the adaptation we need to do, we know the climate is changing, we need to adapt to that, and we will. I hope we will. But I hope the climate, we will work maybe even more on trying to do something so we don't make things worse with the climate change. I think also the distribution might change the way the wines are sold in the world. There's been a lot of merging of distributors. We see a lot of, especially with the pandemic, B2C. So we sell wine directly to consumers more and more. We see an explosion of websites. My husband happens to build websites, and it's non-stop phone calls and say, "Michelle, we need a website to sell our wines direct. We have so many requests." So yeah, I think the distribution might be something we will need to adapt as news.
Exciting to hear that you think that as a Burgundian winemaker, that the distribution of your wines will change. Certainly a historic move if that happens.
Yeah, so you need to be loyal to the people who have been very loyal to for a long time. So we have partners all over the world, importers all over the world, but we see even for them it's changing. So all of us, we will need to adapt. And I really would like to. Sometimes I get frustrated when someone says, "Oh, I love your wine," but I can't find them. So I just want to make people be able to find the wines. Yes, Musigny is maybe not easy to find everywhere, but there's a lot of other wines that are delicious and affordable, and that's the beauty of Burgundy. We have a nice selection of wines at all prices. And I wish that people don't struggle too much to find the wines.
So what are your plans for the year to come as we get past COVID?
Well, I hope we get past COVID very soon. Well, my plan is to make wine in September. So it's like, what, 7 months from now, we will be in full swing of harvest, or probably close to full swing of harvest. And my plan is to make wine in Burgundy and in Oregon. So that's my plan.
That's good.
And also we will celebrate, so we have a big celebration. So we will be celebrating, I mean, for us it's an important celebration because my grandfather bought the Côte in 1921. And so it's 100 years ago. So we want to make, because the Côte deserves it, we want to give a little anniversary to the Côte. So we will, I don't know, maybe we'll try to do some tastings.
What you did for the last Les Ouvres des Dames, are you going to maybe do a project like that again for the 100th anniversary?
Yes, I'm hoping to get the old press, the 16th century old press. Yes, Lily, that's a very good point. I'm hoping. So we're already kind of looking at the press, what needs to be done, and yeah, I'm hoping to make 100 years anniversary cuvée of Bonne Coulinoche. I think
that would be exciting. I want to see if I can come for that.
You're already invited.
So you've mentioned briefly New Zealand. Is there another or a bigger dream project that you'd like to pursue in the future?
I have a tiny project that I'm doing with one of my best friends. She's French, but she lives in Oregon. She's a winemaker. She's a super talented winemaker in Oregon, in a winery that's not, they sell a lot in Oregon. It's called Conte. And Isabel and I started, we've been friends for more than 30 years, and we have worked together for a long time. And so we always thought it would be fun to make wine together. So we started in 2013 a little project in Oregon. We have our secret places to source fruit. And so we made a little Pinot Noir, 5 barrels. It's called Cabalus. And I have always by me, this is Cabalus.
Fantastic.
Yes, so Cabalus is referring to horses because we met at a horse riding club. And the idea is just to make the best wine. So people who know me know maybe the Petit Mont from Vendromané. I always say this is my Petit Mont from Oregon. So my dream is to continue to make this small amount of very
well, that's
kept secret wine of Oregon.
That's exciting news. And now I must taste it. So I'll go spend the rest of the morning finding a bottle of that. And Véronique, it's been, as always, such a pleasure to chat with you today and hear a little bit more about the woman behind Maison, Joseph Drouhin. And I thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And thank you for celebrating Women's History Month and International Women's Day with Acker. So cheers, santé, and have a lovely day and a lovely weekend.
Thank you, Lily. Cheers to you also.